Hi guys, my name is Crystal and welcome to my YouTube channel. It's just after 9 p.m. on the 13th of February 2022. I am now back at home from the hospital and I'm just going to go through things quickly. So I was dropped off, not outside the hospital department, I was dropped off halfway between the hospital and down the road. So I wasn't dropped off right outside the hospital. So I had to make my way on foot past ambulances and past a memorial of someone that had died with roses, because my dad is supposed to have a plaque with a rose dedicated to him at the Bluebell Crematorium. So I walked past the mortician's office, the mortuary office, and this plaque that said Claire had passed away, a lady called Claire. Then I walked into the emergency daycare department after buying something in the League of Friends shop. I had a feeling that today was going to be different because I had a booked appointment. I didn't have to wait with patients in the waiting room, and I thought I would have got seen straight away, and I did. So I went into the shop first, and the reason was I thought it was going to be long. I thought, I'd read online that infusions can take up to 3 hours. So I bought myself a book to read, which is in my bag over there. I bought myself a book. I bought myself some Starburst sweets to chew on. And I contemplated getting myself a coffee, but they usually do supply tea and coffee. So I thought I won't get the coffee, I'll just get something to chew and something to occupy my mind, and I thought a book would be good. So after that I went into the emergency daycare department, booked in at the reception, waited in the waiting room, and it wasn't long before I got seen. Okay, I told you that. And I will say that I spent half an hour with nothing going through my arm because I don't know what had gone wrong, but the machine wasn't administering the iron for half an hour. So she came over. They weren't checking my obs like they were with the blood that I had in me 2 days ago. They weren't checking the obs or the temperature, and the wire looked like it had a knot in it. The infusion lead had a knot. So I thought, I don't feel anything going in my arm, but I never said anything. The Filipino nurse came over, and it hadn't been going through my arm for half an hour. I was sat there for half an hour for no reason. So she sorted it out, she untangled the knot, and the liquid started going through, and immediately I noticed a metallic taste in my mouth, like metal. Tasted like metal. So there was nobody in the room. There was one dark-skinned nurse sat at the table, female, and the Filipino nurse kept coming in and out. The dark-skinned nurse didn't seem to know what to do because my machine kept saying there was an occlusion, an occlusion, and it kept making loud noises in my ear. Now, all the loud noises and all the things that were going on was not making me angry. I was just sat there. I was actually playing my online spades game on my mobile phone. So there's all this noise in my ear that I've got tinnitus in, where the bad tooth is that they want to take out. So I had a barrage of noisy machine in my ear, went off about 6 times, occlusion, 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 and it stopped. The machine stopped putting the liquid in my arm. So on one occasion there was nobody in the room, just me, and this machine was going off for about 2 or 3 minutes. Occlusion, 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 and there was no one in the room with me. It was completely empty. I I didn't panic. I don't panic. The machine switched it straight off. I've heard about things happening where air bubbles get stuck in somebody's arm and it's dangerous. I was just sat there waiting for someone to come and see what it was for about 3 minutes. So eventually a patient came in. It was a male, a young male in his 20s, dirty tracky grey bottoms and grey sweatshirt, with a male and female police officer, and he was chained to the police. I've never been chained to the police. I've never been chained in a police van, chained to police, or anything like that in my life. So seeing a prisoner come in chained, and the police with all their gear, the handcuffs, they were just missing the gun. Because I've had a police officer round to my flat for police that I called out, and they had a gun in a holster. So all that started again, you know. Right? I'm not dangerous. I just sat there, watched it all their bums stuck to me, the police officer's bottoms near my face. But he was right opposite me, the prisoner. They could have sat him anywhere. They sat him right opposite me, and they kept bending down with their big bottoms. He got cups of tea, he got food. The police were sat there like this, watching the telly, chatting to the criminal. I wasn't speaking to anyone. No one was speaking to me. Right? So I felt pretty shitty, to be honest. So after the infusion, they take the needle out, and the doctor asked the nurses to take my blood pressure again, you know, to make, they'd only taken it once anyway. They hadn't checked me through the procedure. They took it afterwards because the doctor said they was going to do that. And the doctor said to me, I've got to go back next Sunday for another iron infusion, and then they want to check my bloods afterwards at my doctor's surgery, and I'm going to be put on some kind of medication. I don't know what. But I'm just going there for treatment because my doctor's surgery requested it. I don't go in there to watch police officers feed a criminal, because that's what they were doing, feeding and looking after a criminal, and I was sat there and I had to ask for a cup of tea and something to eat. I had to wait a fairly long time for the patient transport service to come and get me, and all I could hear was the police officers chatting to this bloke, laughing and giggling and having fun with the guy that was chained to them. So the lady, the very kind patient transport lady, offered to hold my bag, but I didn't, because, you know, she's a lady and why should she carry my bag for me? And I walked to the patient transport vehicle, and she drove me home. And I told you, right on the way home, my neighbour upstairs was in the co-op, parked outside the co-op. His car was parked outside the co-op as my ambulance was driving past his car. So he'd gone out while I was in hospital, and lo and behold, I come into my flat, and he comes in nearly 5 minutes afterwards, and noise, bang, wallop on my ceiling.